These are some of the latest videos in 2022 made by one of the most successful media creators in recent history. If you take these videos and start counting the number of cuts per minute, an interesting pattern emerges. The x-axis shows time going up by minute-long increments, while the y-axis shows the total number of cuts. On its own, it might be a bit difficult to put in perspective, but when shown along with some older videos by the same channel years ago, and as well as some newer, successful, and fast-growing channels, the developments become clearer. What it shows is that successful videos are faster than they've ever been before, and why this has a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is that our attention spans are fried, monkey-like action and quick stuff. That's the end of the video. The long answer, though, requires you to answer a question. How do you build a decentralized video platform that maximizes exposure to the highest quality videos possible, while also following a few rules? The monkey you're targeting has limited time in their day. The bottleneck is demand for content, not the supply of it. The monkey has subjective tastes. One monkey's trash is another monkey's treasure. And the monkey needs to make your platform money. Covering the last one is, relatively speaking, simple. Just let ads ride the ship of a video for a price. More people make videos that people watch, more money you make. Figuring out the other two is more difficult, because it involves something we call quality, which can be quite obscure, and it can also be controversial to say you're the one that's able to identify it. On this platform, though, the proxy for quality is engagement, or more specifically, retention. How much of the viewer's time is spent watching a video? A higher number on average, a more successful video. And intuitively, this seems reasonable. A good book is one you can't put down, and a good speaker is one who can carry the audience through a story without breaking their focus. This video was made possible by NordVPN. Nord is the VPN I personally used for multiple years, and it definitely crossed my mind to just sit here and talk about why you need to get a VPN. But you know that you need to get a VPN. A lot of you are old or are getting older, and having a dedicated VPN is just as much a sign of responsible adulthood as year-by-year physical degeneration is. I've also decided not to ramble about how NordVPN is the fastest VPN, even though it is, or that it has nifty features like an automatic kill switch or threat protection that blocks ads and web trackers. What I will ramble about, though, is that NordVPN's design is the best. I mean, look at it. From the icon to the subtle pastels to the clean, much superior dark mode, NordVPN is undeniably the alpha of VPN design. And if you follow the link below, you can get 30 days just to admire that design, and you can get a money-back guarantee. What you're looking at now is a retention curve for a YouTube video. The higher the amount of people watching for longer, the higher the likelihood your video will be recommended to users. Now, there are a dozen other factors determining a video's success, like the relevance of the content for that specific person, or the success of the video's marketing. But after someone has carefully engineered a picture that will make you click on the video, the race for retention begins. The producer hopes that the viewer goes as far as they can, because a loss of focus is a loss for them. But this is how the problem emerges. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. The most successful videos are no longer the most aesthetic, instructive, and reflective, but the most attention-grabbing. But maybe we shouldn't be too hasty. Critiquing the attention spans of newer generations is an old tactic, and it's always been more convenient for me to say that my essay, filled with incomprehensible jargon and breaking at the seams with tones of moral superiority, is actually incredibly high quality, but it's those other lowbrow content producers that are the reason for why no one reads it. So the real concern is not that engagement shouldn't belong in our calculations of quality, but it's that empty engagement calories can exhaust our ability to pay attention, creating a positive feedback loop which ends up breaking the correlation between retention and quality. Of course, some researchers have grumpily criticized this connection to begin with. The convincing counterpoint goes that it may not be the internet that causes the reduction in attention spans, it's just that those who choose the internet over reading in a cafe, for example, may have a reduced attention span to begin with. But there are others that say not so fast. One study looked at tweets, and they found that over time, popular hashtags have grabbed the public conscience for less and less time, which would seem to indicate that the public's attention on specific issues are more likely to fade now, years after we become used to the internet, than it would have faded when society was just starting to get adjusted to it. and this observation applies across platforms, bursts in attention with quicker falls thereafter. But maybe you've already started getting impatient with me, thinking, man, I don't need a study to validate that my attention is getting fried. I've already started looking at the comments while you're talking. So let's do something a bit more engaging. Think of it as a game. Again, you have contestants that are competing for viewers because attention is scarce. And also again, the contestants know that retention is one of the largest factors that will guarantee their success. If you were playing, what would be the strategy you'd use to win? Think about a movie you saw in the cinema that you loved. You maybe heard about a release date and you started to get excited. You intentionally catered your experience just for the moment that you began watching. You sat down and you soaked in everything that you'd been waiting for. It was well-paced, exciting, and it carried you. Just one temporary, beautiful moment of awareness in that overstimulated monkey brain of yours. And then we have what you're on now, where the quantity is without limits, and if you watch vertically, you'll already have other stimulus calling for you to go deeper. And that brings us back to the game. We have millions of players, and they compete for limited space on that square. Now, maybe you could optimize for the slow burn and the feeling of wonderment that a movie like the one you love provides, and maybe for some it could be a successful strategy. But you could also decide to optimize purely for the metric the game is about. Maybe your video was slow, and you see that the biggest drop-off was after one long shot. So next time a long piece of footage comes around, you cut it, so that people can get a little jab and reminder to keep their eyes on the video. Your retention goes up, so the video earns its space on the square, and space on the square means a higher likelihood to capture attention. But remember, or better yet, just forget. There are others in this game, and they begin to see what you're doing too, and they see that speed is an answer. And so the spiral begins, each video nudging the number of cuts further and further. And before you know it, what would have seemed a bit much 5 years ago has suddenly become the norm. Evolution by attention selection, survival of the clippiest. Now, dramatics aside, I want to also be clear that I am not above attention grabbing. I'm still someone that uses video views as a form of validation for the fact that I didn't pursue engineering or something, and I hook viewers in by coming close to the side of unnecessary provocation of probably one of the best media philanthropists on the planet. And I am also someone that decides to lean heavily on visuals, in many cases at the cost of fully fleshed out scripts, because it's more likely to keep people watching, and lets me get away with telling you what you already know. Monkeys like 3D animation, so this monkey will make more 3D animation. So please take what I say with a grain of salt. I can be wrong, and I will be wrong. And I wouldn't take anyone that takes themselves too seriously.